Hello and welcome to the Eve Reader podcast. My name is Zendane and this is episode 24, The Chronicles Myth of a Salesman and Big Fish, Little Fish. Aaron Assis, Nikes es Lutre, Nayamar Kokolen. Are any of these names the real name of the man who uses them? His best-known alias is not even a name, the Broker. Mention the Broker to any governmental agent anywhere within the world of Eve and you'll be sure to get a response. The only thing more numerous than the number of aliases he is known by is the number of speculations on his background. There are precious few concrete facts known about this elusive spy, negotiator, informant, arms dealer, and manipulator of men and states. As a master of disguise who utilizes the latest in cloning and DNA technology to keep his appearance a secret, such basic details as race, height, or hair color are unknown. However, he's most often considered to be either Amarian or Galentian ancestry, of average height and build, with no apparent quirks or physical marks of notice. For more than 50 years, the Broker has directly or indirectly been involved in various dealings between states, prominent warlords, or intelligence agencies. Most of these dealings include exchange of information and espionage. In addition, various accounts of criminal activity and even terrorism have sometimes been credited to the Broker, but none of them are based on any solid facts. What is known is that the Broker operates a vast information net, mainly within the higher strata of society. He uses this net to gain advantageous business deals, but he also uses the information garnered to blackmail, bribe, or manipulate people or even whole governments. In these operations, he's often working under contract from a third party, invariably a political or economical rival of the victims. As befits the secretive and shadowy endeavors of the Broker, few of his deeds have reached the public eye. In the inner circles of the espionage world, everyone has a story of their own about him, often offering a glimpse of a piece of a much grander scheme the Broker has undertaken. One of his more celebrated feats took early in his career, almost half a century ago, and is known among intelligence agents as the Omicron Incident. At that time, two feudal Amarian lords ruling adjacent domains at the fringes of the Amar Empire were clashing over the privilege to extend their domains to include that of another feudal lord, recently deceased. The Broker, going by the name Aaron Assis, had just concluded a contract to buy a large quantity of Caldari and Galenti manufactured weapons. He was looking for prospective buyers and decided the two Amarian lords to be ideal. The problem was that the two lords were just about to reach an agreement on dividing the disputed territories between them. The Broker acted fast and produced documents claiming that one of the lords, Hurid Akan, had been conspiring to have the other lord, Kirayan, assassinated. The news infuriated Kirayan and made him break off all negotiations with Hurid Akan. Determined to strike the iron while still hot, the Broker set out for Hurid Akan's domain and leaked false information to Hurid Akan's intelligence arm that Kirayan had broken off the negotiations because he intended to invade and occupy the disputed territories with the aid of an undisclosed ally. Hurid Akan was hesitant to take up arms as he considered his army too ill-equipped to be an efficient fighting force. But to his immense relief, he learned that a Caldari arms dealer was visiting his capital. This, of course, was the Broker in yet another disguise. The Broker sold Hurid Akan top-of-the-line Caldari weapons and then left, again heading for Kirayan's domain. Meanwhile, Hurid Akan hurriedly began mobilizing his armed forces. Kirayan, alarmed by the mobilization of Hurid Akan's forces, began his own preparations for war. The Broker leaked the information about the advanced Caldari weapons Hurid Akan had bought to Kirayan and then proceeded to sell him Galentian weaponry as countermeasures. For days, the Broker played the two lords against each other, employing a combination of falsified surveillance data, forged documents describing imaginary plots and plans, and his net of agents and double agents within both domains to increase the paranoia of the lords so they'd buy more of his weapons. In the end, the Amar Emperor, notified of the increased tension in the region, was forced to send a royal arbitrator to calm things down. By that time, the two lords spent their entire fortune buying all of the Broker's weapons, and the Broker himself had quietly disappeared from the empire. This was not to be the last time the Broker ingeniously played factions against each other for his own benefit. As the years have passed, the Broker himself has become increasingly paranoid of keeping his identity and whereabouts hidden. His vast information net and accumulated wealth has made this relatively easy for him, and today he works almost entirely through middlemen in his wheeling and dealing in the outer world. He is still considered to be very active, but the extent of his operation is for anybody to guess. This concludes the chronicle Myth of a Salesman, and now Big Fish, Little Fish. His upper lip was sweating again. Throughout the academy years, through his stint with the Legion, through every shady encounter and backhanded double deal, Monk Dubois had been haunted by the vagaries of his nervous system. He could wrest all the conviction in the world out of his voice, jump into whatever role was required like a chameleon, talk his way into the record books and hatch plots with a winner's smile. But always his body screamed chemical murder, tendrils of bridled conscience playing havoc with his processes. Many a time had a rogue twitch or a freak stutter come perilously close to destroying a sweet deal, and more than once they'd sent him scrambling for his life. Fate had seen him through so far, though, and as long as he had fate on his side, he figured, this damnably honest body of his wouldn't get the best of him yet. He waited patiently for the lift to reach hangar ingress 3C, wherein, suspended in this battered station complex in the middle of nowhere, waited the love of his life, her capacitor humming. Bad Ike's Rumor, the fastest frigate in this backwater region and then some. He'd held on to her longer than any other ship, and with a little help from old fate, they'd seen each other through a lot of tough spots. Chiming its arrival, the lift opened into the ingress. As he got his first glimpse of the corridor beyond, a twinge of fear-laced anticipation took hold of Monk's gut. Suppressing thoughts of the enormity of what he was about to do, and the hatred it would inspire in the people he was about to do it to, he steeled himself and marched into the hallway. An Intaki maintenance tech passed him on the way to the Rumor, shuffling along in brooding silence. As they met, there was a brief and swiftly averted eye contact, and in the instant it happened, Monk felt sure the young man could see right into him. Maintaining his stride and steadying his breath, he kept walking. Coming to the end of the corridor a few steps later, he keyed in a sequence for Hangar Bay 3C and was admitted to the vast cylindrical space where his ship lay, suspended and motionless. Approaching the bay's main control panel, he stopped for a moment and wondered how much longer he was going to keep doing this. All those assumed names, all those forged identities, donned and discarded like so many theater rags, and it all came down to this. After months of planning, of worming his way inside, playing his role to perfection, he now had only to press a few buttons and in one fell swoop turn himself yet again into the vilest of all things vile. Every time, Monk had relished this exact moment, this 1 second where acid-tinged self-loathing mixed with intoxicating joy as he watched his bank balance rise with giddying alacrity, saw his personal account swell with his former compatriots' hard-gotten gains. A sound from the ingress corridor brought him out of his reverie. Striding over to the doorway and leaning in, he saw the unmistakable silhouette of the small Intaki in the jumpsuit heading back towards the hangar bay. Time to work fast, he thought to himself as he ran back to the control panel. Seconds later, the dizzying rush of figures, the pistonic whir of immense wealth, indicated that his corporation's accounts were dry. Now, all he had to do was get out of here and he was home free. Discard the fake credentials, hack his registration, chuck the fixer as cut, then spend the next year or two on some paradise world or other before doing it all over again. He was halfway up the stairs to the capsule landing, musing on the ridiculous ease of the whole thing, when he heard the silence of steps on the main platform below him. Casting a glance over his shoulder, he saw the tech enter the room and, without a moment's hesitation, stride over to the bay panel and key in a sequence lightning fast. With a low hum, Monk's pod began to detach itself from the landing. The bay's bright lights dimmed to a metallic husk. Monk could feel the leaden silence descend on him as the near-subsonic warble of the station-wide intercom died abruptly. He turned on the stairs, ready to put up his most indignant mask for the tech, now a shadowed figure on the platform. Just as he realized, somewhat sheepishly, that the small Intaki couldn't see his face, he heard the voice. "Much better. A far more peaceful environment to work in." The last word had scarcely fallen when Monk heard a low clap and felt his knees buckle like jelly. As he tumbled down the stairs onto the platform, the crazed thought came to him that finally, fate had decided to tip the scales out of his favor. He landed in a crumpled heap on the platform, one leg twisted unnaturally beneath him. The tech was already by the main control panel, fingers working with an almost supernaturally assured swiftness. "What? Who?" began Monk. "Quiet," said the Intaki matter-of-factly, finishing up his keystroke sequence. He took the parapistol from his jumpsuit pocket and turned to face Monk again. Setting down on one knee, gun cocked inches from the terrified man's face, he began to speak in calm, measured tones. "Mr. Dubois, your funds have been wired through an easily traceable route to a corporation with competing interests to your own. When discovered here, you will confess to being an agent of theirs working to undermine your current associate's position on your real employer's behalf. The easy command of his tone somehow managed to convey unspoken threats that sent Monk's gut whirling. Events shall unfold within the next 2 days that will give you ample opportunity to escape the associates you so callously betrayed, after, of course, they have meted out whatever punishment they see fit. A hint of a smile played at his thin lips. "Why? Why do this?" asked Monk, bewildered, after a few seconds had passed in silence. "Consider it your price, Mr. Dubois, your karmic price, if you will, and be grateful that you're playing such a role, however inconsequential, in something that goes beyond yourself. A month from now, should you still be alive, you'll be able to look back and see the little mark you have made on history. All told, I'd say I'm doing you a favor. I'm sure you'll agree that's more than any corp thief deserves." As he had spoken the words, the small man had stood up, pocketed the pistol once more, and, with another rapid-fire keystroke sequence, sent the hangar bay to its regular configuration. As he passed wordlessly through the doorway back to the ingress, Monk caught sight of the man's name tag. N. Loutre. A screaming express of neural connections blazed its way to the forefront of his consciousness, memories of legendary tales told through whispered voices and smoky smuggler's dives congealing in his mind. Niques es Loutre. Aaron Assis. The broker. Cold sweat didn't begin to describe it. This concludes the chronicle Big Fish, Little Fish, and this episode. Thank you for listening. If you are interested in learning more about the rich history of the EVE universe, please visit the EVE Chronicle site at community.eveonline.com/background/POTW. Copyright information regarding the chronicles in this podcast may be found at evereader.org/copyright.html. No yurts were harmed during the making of this show.